Okay, well, I'm going to try this again. Hopefully, I'll have some more videos up for you guys, and hopefully I'll stay on longer than a month like last time. A little less formal this time, but just as awesome as before, content-wise. Of course, we'll be talking about Canadian politics, talking about American politics, talking about everything political. Today, we're going to be talking about the 2011 Ontario provincial election. It's a bit of ways away, but I'm going to make a few predictions, and usually my predictions are pretty good, so we'll see what this is worth. But first of all, let's take a look at the current government. The current government, the Dalton McGuinty government, Liberal government, they've had a few disastrous years. They've had a few unpopular policies. They've had the HST. They've had the e-health scandal. They've had these new eco fees, just to name a few. So their numbers have gone way down, and the Conservatives have, in recent polls, have been polling higher than the Liberals. This has made a lot of people say that Tim Hudak, the leader of the Conservative Party, I'm sorry, I'm not going to refer to him as the leader of the Progressive Conservative Party because there's nothing progressive about the party at all. They're saying that Tim Hudak is going to be the next Premier of Ontario, saying that the Liberals are going to lose a lot of seats in the next election. And is this really true? And I'm going to say, no, it's not. The reason is, these polls, based on this leadership polls, or these polls that are just generally which party do you support in the next election, they do not translate into actual seats, or most of the time they don't even translate into actual votes. And this is the reason. The reason is because most politics nowadays is still local. And a lot of people will still go on election day, and if they live in a riding with a Liberal incumbent, will vote for that Liberal incumbent, whether or not they like the party or whether or not they even know of any of the policies. People largely still based off their local candidate. And frankly, the Conservatives are not strong locally at all. They are very weak in many riding associations. They have still yet to grow past a rural party. They have no seats in Toronto. They have very few seats in urban centres. Take the riding of St. Catharines, which I live in, for example. In the riding of St. Catharines, if you took a poll and said which of the parties would you support in the 2011 provincial election, the Conservatives would probably win. But come election day, Jim Bradley, the current incumbent, who is a Liberal, will definitely win the seat back. It really does not mean anything. You need to be strong in your local riding associations. Your local riding associations need to be strong. You need to have the fundraising. General provincial-wide polls mean nothing when it comes to actually getting seats. As of now, the Conservatives roughly have about 25 or 26 seats, I think, in the legislature. There is no way that they're going to double their seats, more than double their seats, in the next election. Where are these seats going to come from? They already have most of the rural seats. They're not going to get any seats in Toronto. They have no seats in Toronto. They will pick up a few seats in other cities. But they're not going to get 25, 26 more seats at least. There's just no way. They're not that strong locally. As I've said, they've yet to grow past a rural party. They don't identify with urban voters. Most of their issues are rural based. They're not going to grow. And so I'm going to say now, the 2011 provincial election in Ontario I would not be surprised to see a Liberal majority. But to be on the safe side, I'm going to say that it will be a Liberal minority. The Liberals will most likely lose some seats. Yes, it's just inevitable. But will it be enough to actually lose the entire election? There's no way they're going to lose that many seats. Simply because both opposition parties are too weak. Will the NDP pick up some seats? They will probably pick up a few seats, maybe one or two. But the bottom line is, when it comes to this election, that you cannot win an election when you have such weak opposition parties as you see in Ontario. It's the same thing that you see federally. The Liberal Party federally is very weak, and it doesn't matter how bad the Conservatives are, what they do. It doesn't matter, and it's because the Liberals just aren't strong enough to be able to compete with them. And it's the same case provincially, except really the opposite. The Conservatives provincially in Ontario will not win the 2011 provincial election in Ontario because they simply are not strong enough, because they have not grown past the rural ridings. They have not, they're not strong locally, and they're simply basically running off a leader, which, as we've seen basically through the NDP example, doesn't really get much results. Federally, and the NDP and Jack Layton usually scores either first or second when it comes to leadership. Does it get him many more votes? Not really. They might pick up a few seats, but it isn't going to change the entire election. And that's the bottom line, really, is that leadership only gets you so far.